banning away the LeBlanc and banning this Aphelios this time.
I was surprised to see the Aphelios ban. I really didn't feel like it was a big issue in the last game. It felt like more so XX and the way he was able to snowball off the set pick was a lot better. I'll be curious to see, however, what Rogue Warriors do prioritize here again, if it will be the Bard for late, or whether that Twisted Fate now rises in priority for Woomin, because we know Woomin has played it before, and I think it could work quite well for them in this scenario.
Zoe banned away as well. Also, something that just slipped through the draft last time around is the Galio that we've seen Wooming lean on towards. We've seen Maple play a little as well, but nope, they love it. Lay's going to grab himself that Bard once again. We'll see. I mean, I don't know, Dagda. I wasn't convinced by it, but they seem to like it.
Look, it's a very strong pick in the current meta. They're going to end up locking that one in. LNG, they're going to say, hey, look, Bard, great. We're going to go for the set. We're also going to more than likely go towards the Twisted Fate here again. Although, I think we saw the Aphelios locked in here last time. Oh, do we see the Caitlyn?
We'll have to wait and see if it gets locked in. But this set, it was XX in game number 1, and it'll likely be him again in game number 2. But it's going to be light with this Caitlyn now. And we'll talk a little bit about builds and things when it comes to Caitlyn, because she's been creeping up in priority in the last few weeks.
She certainly has. And she did get a buff in patch 10-15, where she got the 2 extra AD and a little bump to her movement speed as well. But she's been slowly creeping her way back into pro play, or at least on the solo queue ladder. On the opposite side, though, the Volley Bear has managed to make his way through the draft. And there's that pick you were talking about. There's the Galio for Woomin in the middle.
Yeah, so a bit more. Obviously, still got that mid-game pressure that can come out. They're going to be able to go for a bit of a more of a skirmish style, more of a team fight style as well. So hopefully that'll work out for them. And now, we talked about the Lux support in game number 1. One thing I do know is alongside Caitlyn, things like Lux, things like Morgana that can get these binds, Caitlyn can follow up with a trap. That is a devastating combo.
And again, we're seeing Iwanti going back towards this Lux. It looked great against the Bard in the last game. And he's perfectly happy to match that range that the Caitlyn has in this lane. And as you talked about, that's a very potent combo. And especially as LNG, I was going to say, could ban away AD carries here. Something like the Ezreal, something that can actually do relatively well against this, or at least keep himself safe. But instead, they're not going to go towards that. We're going to see these ban aways towards Holder with this top lane Camille.
So we're going to see Twisted Fate banned away from Maple here. Obviously, as you already mentioned, the Camille taken off the board as well. And now LNG, I wouldn't be too surprised to see them just focus onto Holder with both of these bans. But we'll have to see what they're going to opt for. Bear in mind, things like the Renekton not been a priority so far in this series.
They haven't been, especially when the compositions with the way they've gone, they haven't been going towards that pick. The Orin was the call in the last game for Holder, and we'll have to see what he decides to go towards this time around.
I mean, it's whether or not this Kayle is banned, right? Because we know Flanger will go for the Kayle. If you lock in that Ornn on the side of Rogue Warriors, he's happy to go for the Kayle.
Well, we'll have to see what he decides to go towards. I mean, as on LNG side right now, you've got a pretty strong early game with the Caitlyn locked in, plus that Cess, who can do well in these skirmishes. And even though we kind of think of Caitlyn having that mid-game trough, it's not really the case anymore with some of the different builds that we've seen come in. So even the mid-game on LNG side is relatively strong. And then you've got that crit AD carry that's tending towards the late game. So Light's pretty happy on this Caitlyn at most points in the game.
So I do want to quickly mention that Maple's champion pool has been pretty excessively banned out here. We've got the Zoe, the LeBlanc, Twisted Fate, and Azir, as well as... wait, Syndra was out. We could have just gone with Syndra.
I mean, the Corki's not the worst here. That siege potential, that poke potential that you have between Lux, Corki, and a Caitlyn is super strong.
True. That's
so
true.
it's not the be-all and end-all. And honestly, it's a super safe mid laner for Maple when in the last game he didn't have too much of an impact. It was more the game happening around him, and then he was able to get involved. I don't hate this Corki pick. Now you've got some really good scaling coming through with both the Corki and the Caitlyn, and LNG looks set up pretty nicely coming into this series.
Oh, I mentioned how the Renekton hadn't been a priority so far this series. Holder disagrees. He's going to lock that one in for himself in the top side. But when we look, I mean, you were talking about the mid-game for the side of LNG. Feels pretty great for Rogue Warriors as well. They have a lot of ability to just brawl you into Dragon Pit.
They definitely do. And, I mean, look, Flandre, we talked about how he's happy to go with these counter picks. That's going to be the Quinn going into the top lane for Flandre. We have seen him play this before. He actually wasn't able to find the victory. Struggled a little bit in the last game where he picked out the Queen. More so because the rest of LNG had fallen so far behind. We'll have to see if Flandre can have the performance that we need to in this game number 2.
Yeah, and Holder just knows that he is going to have a terrible game ahead of him. This laning phase is going to suck for Holder on the Renekton against Quinn. It always does. But let's talk about this composition that LNG have built, because I think it's super interesting with this. Caitlyn looks in the bottom lane, poke across the entire team, and a ton of side lane pressure from this Quinn. This is a very different style to what we usually see in the Open.
Definitely is. But I'm excited to see both these teams try and face up against each other once again. Rogue Warriors now, with the composition they have, as you talked about, that mid-game spiking where they can try and play around that Ezreal off of 2 items, Galio as well, having these big impact plays and trying to work in conjunction with this Volibear, where Volibear goes for the engage with the ult. You've got the Galio coming in on top, the Volibear provides the stun, and it's all a big old party. That bounce house can be quite potent when you get the Galio involved, and I think that's where they're really going to be looking to have these big engages. But when we look towards the opposite side, LNG, they've got a really nice composition between the Corki and the Caitlyn, where if they can get ahead, especially the way that Caitlyn works is obviously shoving in these waves, trying to chip away these turret plates and get herself into this really good spot. I think you can have LNG ride through this mid game into the late game where they will be stronger.
Well, we're heading into game number 2 here, Dagda. And I am curious, as you say, this poke, well, not necessarily poke, but like siege composition out of LNG. As we head onto the map, and LNG feeling like a favorite after game number 1, honestly. Rogue Warriors were nowhere to be seen, but this time around, I feel like Rogue Warriors composition a little bit easier to execute, a little bit easier to just force a huge team fight and blast all of these ultimates at your opponent.
The good thing for LNG side, though, is the wave clear that they have between Maple and Light, and even Iwandi to a certain extent, is going to be really good in allowing Flandre to play through these side lanes. You've got even Maple who can play off in a side lane as well if you really want to, and try to chip away at these structures. But the way I imagine that this LNG composition is going to play is more about, okay, we want XX to pretty heavily play through this bottom side, allow Light and Iwandi to shove these waves over and over, because Ezreal isn't the best at wave clear. Like, he can get a decent push level 1 because he's got the auto Mystic Shot to help shove, but Caitlyn does so good at shoving in these waves, chipping at these turret plates, and then once she manages to get that bottom lane structure, you just rotate her top, rinse and repeat, start to play around these objectives like dragons, those early Rift Heralds, and that's where you can use the power of this Caitlyn. Although, that stun was a little bit wonky, but it came through anyway.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how that one worked out, but you know what? It's a nice start to the lane for Rogue Warriors. And Lei already looking better on the bar than he did in game number 1, just off of 1 stun alone, because that's more than he managed to achieve in the whole of game 1.
So let's look at what we were talking about in Champ Select, is the different builds and why Caitlyn has risen to priority to a certain extent. You can go for a couple of different styles. It's usually looking at the likes of the Essence Reaver, Infinity Edge first, or even the Storm Razors first. And the way that you start to decide what you want to go for here is how much gold you have when you back. You're always going to go for that BF first as much as you can, but if you're able to go BF into pickaxe, right, let's go straight towards that Infinity Edge, because obviously that's where a lot of the damage is. Otherwise, you can go over towards something like that Storm Razors or Essence Reaver and starts to push through with all that extra cooldown reduction and some of that extra power coming through that wave clear.
You're going to recite everything I told you on the Metro right in front of my face.
Lad, it's not as if I hadn't already looked at this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, though. But one of the interesting things about Caitlyn, actually, is right now, and I think Freak was the guy that started this conversation off, is there is a build where you go for 3 BF sword items instead of just the normal 2 into Zeal, and it kind of allows you to move forward with less of a mid-game trough, much more power, and just insane damage when things like a Binding land, when you do get a trap on someone, you just one shot.
And the thing is, that build, well, at least the double BF build, has actually existed even from back as far as spring. The issue is, though, that we actually haven't seen Caitlyn's in the LPL go for that BF build. Instead, they're still going for that Infinity Edge, into Rapid Fire Cannon, into the double Zeal item. And that's the problem that I've seen with the LPL, is that they haven't really adapted a huge amount. So I'll be curious to see what Light does build, and if he's updated his repertoire into that new Caitlyn style.
We'll have to see how Light's going to play this one out, whether we do see something like the Storm Razor, or if it's going to be more of the classic style. But Haro not wanting to let this one play slowly. He wants to get in onto Flandre, but Flandre, he had a feeling. There was a lot of things going into that topside jungle. He's going to play it relatively safe, but steps forward once again. This could cost him his flash right now, and we'll have to go for that. Nimbus Cloak means he's completely safe, and at least he's going to be able to do some damage Actually, a lot of damage on the way out. Harrow regretting this gank in a big way.
And look at XX now. He's going to be able to figure out, hey, I've now got Harrow super low. I can get into his jungle, try and steal away his camp, or just be a real nuisance here in this lane. And even when you look at how low Holder is, with the wave pushing in here for Flandre, they can just look for a dive.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to go for it just yet. As Flandre just going to quite happily extend this 1v1 as long as possible and just try and find himself some CS leads. As the first turret play already goes down in the bottom side, built over Peacemaker to follow. Wuji's not going to have a fun time. And honestly, it is a beauty to watch a good Caitlyn Lux / Morgana combo in the bottom lane because they will just annihilate any kind of duo. Holder might be able to find an all-in opportunity here because XX did not get his way under tower like he wanted.
And you can see at the moment XX moving up towards this top side to see if he can try and help out Flandre in that objective, but not going to be able to get too much done. But still, XX managed to steal away a camp in the opposite side of the jungle. And Harrow now on this bottom side trying to see if he can spot out where XX might be going so we can start this try.
See XX sticking around in that tri-brush though, because Holder has to try and stop this freeze, has to try and ruin that. Slice and Dice comes through though, and XX kind of arrived at the worst possible moment there, so it's not going to happen in the end. He's just going to help clear this wave so the Flandre can get his own.
And that has to happen here from XX. It's a good call from Rogue Warriors that, look, if Flandre is just shoved in continuously, he's not going to be able to get this back. So we have to call XX up to escort this minion lane in. And it's a good job by Holder to try and use the advantage that his TP offers him to hold XX in this top side.
But unfortunately, that TP advantage is no more. And now we're going to find ourselves in a position where Flandre does get to recall, gets to go back to his base. Although Holder is going to ruin that at least for now. But with the minion wave still not quite in lane just yet, still going to have time to get back to base. Importantly, Rogue Warriors at least found themselves a dragon off the ball.
But the important part here is that Flandre is in 6, so it's going to take him a little bit of time to get back towards that top lane. Holder can shove in this wave if he wants to, make the Flandre lose a little bit of CS, and then try and look for the bounce back where he can hold the wave. But it looks like he's pretty happy to just hold the wave as is, and maybe look for a dive as that Quinn comes back to lane.
Rogue Warriors are not going to commit to this counter matchup here. They are not going to allow Holder to just be destroyed by Flandre. They're making a play on towards this top lane. And bear in mind, obviously, Lei is not level 6 just yet. There will be no Tempered Fate. This is going to be about burst. This is going to be about getting in and out before anything happens. Flandre now spotted the play. The question is, can he survive it? He doesn't have flash available. Jumps back on the play, but he's going to be cut down and easily done here by Rogue Warriors.
And a nice job as well, because Zhang Wuji is still in this bottom lane. You do have Light and Iwanti who are going to shove in and get another turret play for themselves, but you've got to try and answer somewhere on the map. And at least at the moment, they're getting something back for Holder. The problem oftentimes here, though, is that when you try and focus this Renekton in the Queen matchup and help Holder survive, it's not actually going to help you in the long run, because still, you've got this Renekton who's just going to be a damage absorption in the top lane. You should be more focused on trying to get the rest of your 4-man ahead, but it's hard to make plays in the bottom lane against the likes of Caitlyn and this Lux, and in the mid lane as well.
No.
Maple's so easy
the
to get
combo is there. There's a lot of damage on delay. Finished off easily. That was beautiful from Light right there. The Pill Turbo, once the trap hits, will ignore the minion damage reduction. And now Wuji is going to feel the meaning of pain. XX coming under the tower. He's set. He is not afraid to make this happen. One more auto, and it's 2 kills now for the bottom lane of LNG.
And LNG are looking so damn good here. Again, XX making these plays happen in the early stages of the game. 2 kills going across now to the LNG bot side, and that turret is not long for this world.
It certainly is not. They're going to have to recall before they can finish it, but XX now going to try and extend this advantage as he moves into the jungle. Will steal away the red buff. And here's the thing. We're talking about these two teams in terms of the 5v5 composition, but also, if you just look at the lanes, there is a winning lane in every single lane for LNG. Even if you've got mid-game spikes for Rogue Warriors, how do you ever even get there?
At least for Rogue Warriors, they're trying to answer for how these... Ooh, hang on.
It's pretty low here, but Wuji doesn't quite have his damage.
How these map states are playing out, though, Rogue Warriors are trying to play around them reasonably well. So you can see Harrow at least is getting that Rift Turret on the top side. They have, with XX being stuck in that top lane for a little bit of time to try and help Flandre with the wave situation, have got a dragon for themselves. When we look at objectives... Oh, hang on.
TP coming down towards this bottom lane from Light. I was a little confused there. I didn't realize Light had teleport, but it's not going to be a play. It's just going to be him returning to the lane. And they might be able to crack this tower open, actually. With the Rift Herald here, there's only just over 2 turret plates left. Flandre is desperately trying to contest, but he realizes he can't get too close on this one. Herald is finished off, but Herald will be able to finish the tower off anyway. So Rogue Warriors, despite the fact that LNG have been making plays around the map, they're the ones to get the first tower.
And we're still even when it comes to that gold situation as well. But the problem is where that gold is situated. Because Hoder now has a lot of gold. Harrow has a bunch of gold on the Rogue Warriors side. So they've got to be the two that can try and get into these fights and make plays happen. But when you look at the LNG composition, LNG do a really good job of avoiding exactly those pairings in these fights. Because Maple can get out with Valkyrie. You got super long range on towards Light. And speaking of Light, he's the one on LNG who's got all that gold. He's got the turret plates. He's got the kill. Light is so happy on this Caitlyn right now that quickly he's been accelerated. He got the BF, the pick, and he's going to be going towards Infinity.
That's the most important thing. Like, it's very rare that on your first recall you get a BF sword and a pickaxe. He's hitting like a train right now.
Well, it was his second back he got the BF sword. He had got the pick originally, then went back and got the BF sword, but you can see he's almost at his Berserker Greaves as well. Here, like, LNG with XX again floating around this bottom side and shoving aggressively. They know that even if it comes to a 2v2, where you've got XX and you've got Harrow joining into the mix potentially in a 3v3, it still comes out in favor of LNG, especially with the level lead that XX has managed to gain for himself off of being able to clear so many of these maps.
We do have everyone gathering around for this dragon, though. You can see Wooming has moved over to the play already, going to start this one off. XX is on this half of the map, but it looks like maybe LNG will concede this one, as Dragon already down to 2,000. I think Harris should be able to just burst this one through, and XX not looking to try and force the play. Valiant effort from Iwandi there, worth the shot, but it's not going to happen. Flandre is just going to walk straight through Holder. He realizes he's just got to jump away.
Burns the cleanse though, which could potentially set up for another play towards that top side, but Hoder right now, what he needs to do is try and shove in this wave, because now that you've got this top lane turret gone, Hoder needs to get active with his teleport event to back up.
Oh,
but
Flash comes out from Harrow to make the play onto Maple, jumps on in as well. Tempered Fate is there, but that is not the synergy we wanted. Denied a lot of CC. They still get the kill, straight in for a tower in the bottom lane.
I'm surprised to see Maple trying to go that aggressive towards the jungle. You have your winning lane already in the bottom side where you were going to get that tower, and as a result, Maple goes down. Now, Light and Iwandi still get that tower in the bottom lane. They're still the ones that can try and move up towards top lane now, accelerate the play, but fortunately, it means that now that top lane where we're like, okay, Hoder, shove in the wave, try and aggressively make the play bot side with Harrow, or even in the mid lane with your teleport up. You can't go towards that because trying to shove Flandre in super aggressively now isn't going to be possible, as Light and Iwandi will be taking the space in top lane.
We'll have to see where Light is going to go next with his build as well. That Infinity Edge now finished that we were talking about before. The question is, where does he go next? Because the Storm Razor is an option. Rapid Fire Cannon has been kind of the classic for the last few months. But people are starting to divert into things like the Storm Razor, but also Essence Reaver is now an option too. So we'll have to see which version of Caitlyn he's going to go with. He's certainly enjoying these buffs so far.
And although, we were having the conversation, as you were saying before the cat, although we have seen, the Storm Razor is the earlier game option where you like to build a little bit quicker because it does provide a lot more damage. We have seen some AD carries, in particular like Reckless and Solo Q, has actually opted for the Essence Reaver, then the Storm Razors, because you just want to get that cooldown reduction. You want to be able to get those mana back so you can spam your Qs, get the cooldown of your traps up. It just leaves you in a bit of a nice situation, but be curious to see what Light does decide to go for here.
Yeah, we'll have to see where he's going to go with this one. Also, he's alongside a Corki, so important to mention that when that Triforce is finished, that's going to be a massive damage spike for the side of LNG. So you can expect that, once that Triforce finishes, once the Mana Moon is stacked as well, that's probably when LNG are going to start to contest for some of these objectives. Like we saw them forego that most recent Dragon. That won't be happening once Corki's got a couple of items.
Exactly. And, even when you, as you said, the Caitlyn, the Queen, the whole lot of them will do well when we get towards a little bit more of those expensive items, but it's just about buying time right now. And I like that LNG have realized, hey, look, our draft is lane focused. Flandre wants to be in a lane by himself against Hoder. Light and Iwandi want to be in a lane pushing 2v2, aggressively getting these structures. So let's not over-aggressive these objectives early, where we can actually find ourselves in a bit of a miserable situation in team fights.
How many times have we seen XX just get away with it in this series? We saw him steal the Scuttle Crab away, we've seen him steal buffs galore, chickens galore, always with the Nimbus Cloak, just sneak it on out after our Rogue Warriors desperately try and contest.
So, well, we'll have to see if he can sneak away a bit more, because we do have Rift Herald that's about to come up. I'm surprised to see Light and Iwandi actually situated in this mid lane. I thought it would be the move to get them into top side and try and continue knocking down these side lane structures. It's a little bit more difficult for Light and Iwandi to be aggressive in the mid lane to try and poke away at these turrets, because obviously you've got two sides that you can be enveloped by. So I would rather see Light move up towards this top side and actually just have Maple sit in the mid lane again, continue to farm, continue to shove these out. And I know it's, oh, well, Maple has TP, but Maple's not going to be able to take those structures by himself. You need Light and Iwandi there to try and contest these tier 1 towers in the side lanes.
Well, for now, it looks like LNG are going to be focusing on towards this Rift Herald. You can see everybody's proved up already. Holder is going to be in a position to flank, and looks like he's getting flanked instead. Forced out of the play as Maple used the package to get to the top side. It's going to be Light still in that mid lane, just forcing that wave out before moving over. Lei, it's not been convincing, mate. I'm not going to lie. It continues to be unconvincing. In they go with the team fight, though. Harrow jumps out of the play, but the base breaker as well. XX is desperate to finish off the bear. They don't quite have the damage to do it, but they forced everyone from Rogue Warriors out of the play for now.
But remember what we said, LNG can do a decent job of kiting back, keeping this team at bay. And Rogue Warriors, after you have Woomin getting out, Harrow running for the hills, it's a lot more difficult for them to try and follow up on LNG. And LNG back away, but as long as they're denying Rogue Warriors the likes of these Rift Herald, it's Rogue Warriors unable to crack open these towers, and LNG are getting time to scale, getting time to get to the big Caitlyn and the big Corki. But as we look at the items on the Caitlyn, this is what we talked about. LPL Caitlyn's do not like these new builds that we've seen coming out with these double or triple BF items. Instead, they always tend back towards the Infinity Edge and your Zealots.
Yeah, the rapid fire cannon, usually the standard second item for Caitlyn. It's what we've been looking at for months, so not that surprising to see Light going with that. But, you know, you actually technically get a little bit more of an advantage out of that AD buff if you're going attack speed.
You do, but it also puts you into a little bit of a heavier trough in the mid game. The whole point we saw this build coming in on Caitlyn was to try and forego that. No
time to talk about Caitlyn because XX is fighting with Harrow once again. Haymaker goes a little wide, but that is going to be a grand entrance used to not much success, to be quite honest. It is going to open up this dragon for Rogue Warriors. They're in position to start it, and I'm curious if LNG can extend this play.
Well, they've got some serious amounts of poke, so moving in slowly here, setting up traps, can push Rogue Warriors off of the dragon, and you're seeing it just there. The line of skirmish has been set up by LNG, and Rogue Warriors are afraid to approach it.
There's a lot of shielding as well coming out from Iwandi. Dragon down to 2k, and they're just going to go for the 50-50. XX wins it in the end, but he's knocked up here. Haymaker to keep himself safe as Wooming pushed back out of the fight, used as a transportation for XX. Now Holder suddenly realizes he's way too late on the flank. Ace in the hole as well as everything. Rockets, lasers, he's blasted apart.
This is beautifully played by LNG, controlling the space with the traps, getting down that long-range damage, and you can see the triple threat of Maple, Light, and Iwandi. The long-range shot finishes off the Croc.
And you know, I saw the Ace in the hole channel, and I was like, there's no way you're killing that Croc. And then I realized, with lasers, with rockets, with all kinds of sci-fi colliding at once, it's just beautiful.
It's just been so well played. And Rogue Warriors, again, a bit disjointed on this engagement, where Holder wasn't able to get into the fight at the same time as Wooming, so you deal with Wooming, you turn towards Holder, Holder's now in trouble, and Rogue Warriors are completely gone at that.
The long-range kill. Aphelios, eat your heart out, mate, because that's how it's done right there. We got Season 1 champs, forget Season 10.
Yeah, they're the real OP, the OG OP ones in this game, but Rogue Warriors, either way, they're struggling massively here.
What do you think about it? Back when Lux, Caitlyn, and Corki were designed, Riot had a combined game development experience of almost 4 years.
Yeah, true. Yeah. I mean, and look where we are now, how far we've come with all those years of game development. But Iwandi now looking to get on towards Holder.
Hang on, he's going to be rooted. But they've decided they're not going to go for this one right now, despite the fact that the whole of Rogue Warriors is on the top side of the map. I'm surprised they didn't try and force something there, Dagda. But in the meantime, Flandre is still going to be hammering away in the bottom side. As I say that, he's going to recall.
Yeah, not really sure where Rogue Warriors are right now, so not wanting to go too far, but with a few of them being spotted towards mid.
Interestingly, Light has gone with the Hurricane instead of that rapid-fire cannon. So looking to go for these full 5v5s, looking to get as much damage out as he can during the team fights. Going to synergize very well with his headshot as well.
And I don't hate this. I think when you're looking at Light, hey, look, you know that Woomin and Haro and Holder are all going to be within that double shot, if not triple shot area, so might as well get the Runins and fire away at all three of them at the same time. And as we talked about LNG, even with that Rift Herald there, LNG have so much wave. Like, it's really hard for Rogue Warriors to try and approach these waves unless they have Baron.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, but also on the other side, LNG, they're going up against a team with not a whole lot of wave clear. And also, they have really great siege. So if LNG do find themselves extending this gold lead, which they might just do in this 1v1 between Flandre and Haro here, Haro gets out with his life, but this is the power of the Blade of the Rune King that we were talking about. If this gold lead does just continue to extend from the side of LNG, and they can set up a siege in multiple lanes, it's going to be really hard to break for Rogue Warriors.
And it looks like Siege is going to be the main thing, right? Because right now, LNG are just trying to take down these side lane structures so they can push in these side waves and then group up, or at least, you know, Maple, Light, XX, and Iwandi will group up so that then they can try and siege down these structures. Leaving Flandre in a side lane in a 1-4 is the best opportunity here for LNG. Just try and open up this game and keep the pressure here, because already a 3,000 gold lead for themselves at 21.
I'm getting deja vu, Dagda. I feel like this is what happened in game number 1. Flandre at 20 minutes, taking the bot tier 2 completely uncontested.
And again, we're seeing this Mountain Soul too. So a lot of deja vu from game number 1, where LNG will be able to rack up a couple of these, and it'll make the competition survive a little bit healthier, obviously, because you get all that armor and magic resist. But when you're trying to survive the heavy engage tools of Rogue Warriors, the tanky stats give you the opportunity to kite back a little bit more. You know, you got the Valkyrie, you got the net for Light. These disengage tools, if you do get caught by CC, will be a lot better when you've got a bit more tanky stats and can survive that little bit.
XX making a play onto Lakers. Flandre's off in the wings. Ace in the hole comes through, but Wuji blocks it with the Guardian Shield. Holder pulled back by the showstopper, but a lot used there by LNG to not much avail.
And again, Flandre shoving in the spot wave. So now he's going to be able to push in the spot side. You've got LNG getting control of mid.
That's a lot of ults used. Holder still survives though as XX is going to be pulled by the Tempered Fate, but everybody baited into the face break. Maybe I'm getting too excited there, because Rogue Warriors winning this fight right now. Flandre getting onto Wooming, forces everybody out. Hey, Rogue Warriors found themselves a pick.
They found a pick onto XX, but the thing is, this circle of damage is just surrounding them at all points in time. Everywhere they go, they're being met with rockets, with pilled over peacemakers. Even Flandre is hovering off here.
Oh my goodness, Holder, sorry, getting absolutely battered down. Flandre's in trouble. He's going to be slowed endlessly in a magical journey, but flashed away from. Nicely done by Flandre to survive. It's not often that you see a pick taken onto the enemy jungler, and the team can't then immediately go for the dragon.
They're still trying to. I mean, they've got the TP coming in from Holder for the base. XX is only coming out of his own base now, and Rogue Warriors have started up this dragon.
Well, I said that at the worst possible moment, because I guess they can go for the dragon after all. But importantly, this will be Rogue Warriors' third dragon now. They're on soul point towards that Mountain Soul, which is going to be very nice for them, because we already talked about it. There's a lot of poke on the side of LNG. Getting yourself a Mountain Soul is going to deal with a lot of that.
You see how careful LNG have to be, though, because even though they have that gold lead, the engages from Lei with the Tempered Fate can cause a real issue for them. XX needs to be playing a little bit further back, letting this damage come through from the rest of LNG with the poke and prod style that LNG are going for, and then have that big engage come through afterwards, where you've already got a binding from Iwandi landing or a trap from Light that has set you up for success in that spot.
So, we've been talking a lot about LNG, their win conditions, how they win this one. From the side of Rogue Warriors then, how do they actually get themselves a gold lead here? How do they get themselves back on the board? And what does the team fight actually look like for this squad?
Well, for a lot of times, it's trying to set up around these objectives like that. Well, fourth dragon that's available for them now in a couple of minutes. This Baron area as well. And trying to pick off LNG as they try to encircle them. Like, we saw it with Flandre there, where Flandre was forced to flash and also try and cleanse, and even having Lei with this Tempered Fate to try and select one direction and just go for it. But
no.
Wuming?
It's okay, he's got a Blaster Cone, pulled back in, Ace in the hole comes through as Wuming went aggressive for this. Teleport Taunt comes across the team. As Iwandi, the only one to go down. Flandre split pushing in the meantime, and Rogue Warriors, they've seen their opportunity. They're going to go for Baron.
And that's the play. That was what we were talking about. The Tempered Fate to try and pick off some members and set up for an engage. Rogue Warriors managed to grab it. Flandre, though, has managed to crack open that bottom lane structure. Now trying to get over towards this Baron to dissuade the play.
Might be a little late on play, but X6 is available right now. Has the smite available, and we talked about the poke here. This is where it comes in strong. Flandre off from the side. Holder gets the stun though, and there goes Light. See you later, buddy. Back into the pit once more as Holder happy to tank up this Baron. X6 over the wall. He's going to come in, gets a stun onto everybody. The Haymaker's there, but the Baron's not low enough to smite it. They're going to just go for the team fight. Baron taken in the end by Rogue Warriors, but at what cost? The rest of the team taken down, and Maple finds a Quadra.
Maple gets the Quadra. LNG make the play. Rogue Warriors stuck in the pit, unable to get on to LNG. And even though they get the Baron, it's only Lei who manages to escape with it.
And I thought it was going to be better for Rogue Warriors. When they got the pick onto Light there, it looked like maybe this was the fight. But so much damage out of Flandre, out of Maple, and XX. Once again, these face breakers are insane.
These face breakers are absolutely nuts. And even though XX goes down, he actually gets enough damage there where if the smite comes in, there's no one left to actually get the Baron kill. So all of Rogue Warriors are focused on trying to finish that Baron off, and it means that all this damage, all this poke from LNG is so damn strong, and they're able to take the fight.
So now we reset once more, and hey, there is one Baron on the side of Rogue Warriors, so maybe there's something they can do with that. They're still got the buff, but
you can see the miscommunication here from Rogue Warriors, though, where both Lei and Harrow are piecing out while we have Holder go in. And look, they get the kill anyway, but then this play here from the set is absolutely beautiful. Managed to take out Holder. Then you can see the panic coming through as the Volley Bears goes down over to Maple as well. And then Maple's able to hop over and pick off one more for himself. So great play from LNG to shut down that aggressive start from Rogue Warriors. And if that Baron had gone over to Rogue Warriors plain and simple, well then they can get control of this game. They can force LNG underneath their turrets, and then they can start to whittle away at these structures. Fortunately though, it's only Lei who has access to this right now, which means Flandre can continue inside of this.
Everybody from LNG gets away from the Tempered Fate here. The Baron attempting to be used as Harrow takes a bit of a tap. In the meantime, Flandre, once again, just goes back towards this side lane, gets himself out of the team fight, and hopes that LNG have enough wave clear to just deal with the siege.
And this is where the big question is for LNG, is how do they try and deal with this dragon in 50 seconds? Because it is that fourth dragon, it will put the soul in towards the hands of Rogue Warriors. And as LNG, you've got to try and fight it. As much as it's nice to have Flandre playing these side lanes, you're now going to be forced into a scrap. And how do they try and get themselves situated where they're not going to get caught out by Lei? They won't have Rogue Warriors able to flank them so they can get onto Maple and Light. LNG, this is where you need to show that you're more than capable of piloting a composition like this.
This next dragon is going to be probably a massive turning point in the game, because if Rogue Warriors can get themselves the Mountain Soul, then they're still in this one. They're still going to be able to team fight. They're still going to be able to withstand some of the damage coming through from LNG. However, if LNG are able to deny this dragon, that might be the end of the chance for Rogue Warriors. Holden knows that he's positioning for a teleport with Home Guard, but the dragon's gone. It's already taken. LNG got the dragon before the play begins. In comes Holder with the flank. They're trying to get onto this team. Tempered Fate only onto Iwandi, and the ult just to pull Holder out of the play. Can't get the flank that he wants, and now LNG can keep Rogue Warriors at range.
And that was beautiful from XX, understanding what his job in that fight was. Create space for the rest of LNG. Iwandi lands the binding, which shuts down the engage coming through from Harrow and from Wuming, and then you've got XX who denies that flank from Holder. So LNG get that dragon, they escape before anything can go awry, and now you've bought yourself 4.5 minutes where that dragon isn't an issue, and at least 2.5 minutes of pushing until that Baron spawns.
And just look at the items. We were talking about it before. Once Maple gets that Triforce, now he's got a Rapid Fire Cannon as well. Flandre, I mean, it was a valiant effort from Wuji. I thought he was going to be able to do something more there, but too much damage out of Maple.
The blind as well definitely helps from Flandre and with Maple coming in, so means that he's not quite able to turn that around. Now LNG with that pick can try and get some of this push in their favor, crack open these outer structures, because there's only this last tier 2 remaining. The rest are inhibitor turrets.
And the thing is, this is exactly where LNG's composition excels. This is what they have wanted all game long. Look how quickly this tower is going to go down. Light is able to burn through it, as is Maple with the Triforce getting those Sheen procs. In the meantime, Flandre can pressure on the bottom side of the map. This is going to be 2 inhibitors taken simultaneously from the side of LNG. They got themselves only a 5,000 gold lead to work with, but it's plenty apparently.
Yeah, it's super easy, especially since Zhongwuji isn't there. LNG are able to crack open 2 inhibitor turrets. And then look, you got a Baron in a minute. They're going to be able to have super minions pushing these bot side and this mid lane, making it really difficult for Rogue Warriors to try and contest on an even footing. And while Rogue Warriors are trying to maneuver, trying to get some foothold in this river towards this Baron, you can have the poke from this rapid fire on both the Corki and the Caitlyn, whittling away at their health bars and making it really difficult to operate in this race.
We're going to have to wait and see if Rogue Warriors have a way back into this one. For their sake, I hope that they do. I've been hyping them up all season, and I've been hoping for more recently. As I mentioned before, the series before this one, Rogue Warriors, kind of didn't really show up at all. Now here against LNG, we're just not seeing the same magic, the same mojo that we saw before. And Holder, he's doing his best on these flanks. He's trying to find his way in, but it feels like the shot calling is just too late for Rogue Warriors. It doesn't feel like they're ready for the play before the play happens.
They do have an opportunity here with the CP on Woomin, but they
I don't
might be gone.
Feels like might be LNG's opportunity to be honest. The laser comes across. There's the showstopper as well onto Holder. Now the fight really kicks off. Flandre forced to flash away. In goes Harrow, but a Tempered Fate stops everything. In the meantime, XX gone down in the back line. Maybe this is the fight they needed. Woomin can't quite get close enough though to get onto the carries. That's a lot of damage out of Light. Down will go Lay as well as he gets himself a double kill. Has a stopwatch as well. Holder gets the stun. To try and finish him off. The shield comes through. Oh my days, Light survives! And LNG cannot be stopped here. Teleport immediately out of Maple. They're going to try and end the game.
Light even has a TP as well as he's back. Wuji!
Wuji's over the wall. Flash from Maple to finish it off.
And look, Light has got a TP in. LNG have done it. They've taken down Rogue Warriors 2-0. And looking damn clean while they do it.
I know. And Light as well on this Caitlyn, surviving the fight. On the very edge of death there, but still held on. Great shields out of Iwandi. LNG with a 2-0 victory.
And LNG, that was so impressive.